touch on a couple projects that were near and dear to my heart. Large projects, right? Elements of those projects that were very risky for everyone, particularly small businesses. This particular project, the Cardinals' new ballpark, we actually lost. I think we lost about 10 businesses during the course of that project. Minority and/or women-owned businesses. And there were some things that I just wanted to share about this project that was particular, that I thought made it a little more difficult than doing an MRI or CT suite or something of that nature. So let's see if I can get this right here. So this project sat on 28 acres of property, which now currently includes Ballpark Village. It was a design-build bridging method, which is currently, I believe, being engaged with the East Garage. Don't see that a lot in St. Louis, unless I've missed some things. The East Garage is one of the few that I've seen since this project. We had liquidated damages daily of $8 million a day. $8 million a day. We had a dual site. So we shared the footprint between Old Bush and New Bush, which you saw in that first slide. We actually shared the site. At a building gross square foot of over just about $1.5 million. $273 million in direct cost of work. That's not the cost of the development. That's just the cost of the work, including general conditions and fees and subcontracted work. We had 75 first-tier contractors. We had 132 MBEs. So we had quite a few MBEs, 132 and 33 MBEs. So we had just short WBEs. We had just short of 180, 190 firms. So we lost 10. So difficult casualties of war to absorb, but we lost 10. We had 23 subcontracted mentor-protege relationships. And I would expect that on the campus renewal, there will probably be several mentor-protege type relationships on this project. Just a few fun facts, a few more. The thing that was maybe the most funny about the project was we had to do what they call a super flush. Anybody ever been on a big job where they had to do a super flush? Nobody? Okay. You could probably guess what that is. Super flush was, we had to literally have a person at every toilet in the ballpark, and at a certain time, right, we flushed every toilet in the building. Obviously, we were checking capacity and pressures and things like that, but that was interesting, so super flush. We saved $5 million on a VE because we used some architectural precast panels. So the red brick you see when you pull up to New Bush Stadium, it's all precast architectural panels. We did have some hand-over-hand brick, but we saved $3 million in the demo of Old Bush because the painted white sunscreen at the top of Old Bush, if you remember, that was painted with lead-based paint, and we got the EPA to approve for us to crush it for what we call beneficial reuse. And we use it as part of the excavation for New Bush. And so it would have cost us a lot of money to segregate that material because it had lead in it, but we were able to get that approval. So just a very difficult process to go through to get those approvals. We had just shy of 2,400 PCOs, which ultimately ended up change orders. So we had multiple budgets that we managed, IGMP, OGMP. I managed both of those budgets. We had acceleration and project contingencies. We managed the cleanup through a composite cleanup program. Every sub had to put in a certain amount of hours each week, and we logged it, so there was no one person or entity responsible for cleanup. And then, of course, we had an OSIP program, which is what will be in place here. So just a quick list of some of the data sources that I use: KPMG, OSHA, some information from the Department of Health Administration, Virginia Commonwealth, the Project Management Institute, and then some other sources here locally. and just sometimes people want to know where you got some data. Missouri Baptist Medical Center, the most recent bed tower that has been built by BJC. I was fortunate enough to be the BJC senior project manager responsible for this project. And I think there's a couple people in this room that were part of the project. Dave Malamfi, sitting back with the ACW, was one of the leads for the construction part of the IPD. Very, very complicated project, if for no other reason. We paid for it through 4 different buckets of money. 4 different buckets of money, and we moved money from one bucket to the next in order to pay for different things, and we did a true up at the end. So very, very interesting way to budget. We gave several $millions back at the end, but this was a wonderful project. Dave will attest to some of the challenges that we had, but we got through it as a team. It was the second integrated project delivery method that BJC engaged in. The first one was the St. Peter's bed tower, which was $20 million. This one was much larger. But we had the tower, we did the garage, we relocated the helipad, we had tons of site work and the raising of the parking lots and in the electrical substation. So won't go into all of that, but that's in your presentation. Just helping you to understand some of the things that go into some of the larger projects that, depending on what your role is, it touches you, or it may not touch you. But because of my role, it touched me in several areas. So I wanted you to sort of understand some of the complexities of it. So when I think about being part of a large project, and you are a small company, and it's very enticing to all of us to want to be on the job, because and we're all human, and in some cases, we think this is paradise. This is what is going to get us to the promised land, right? In some cases, that's how we think. I have thought in that manner before, but maybe I didn't fully understand everything that I was up against because of the differences between some of the smaller projects that it's very easy for us to sink our teeth into, and get a hold of, because it's well within our capacity, well within it. But now you talk about an extremely complex project. Particularly, I'm speaking to the campus renewal, extremely complex. And a lot of times we don't ask the right questions of ourselves because the project is right in front of us, and all we see, like I said again, is the promise. Being exposed to a large project is a hazard. It's a hazard. But it doesn't get transformed to that risk until you do something to be part of it. And once you're part of it, you propose, you with a team, you win. Now you're on the risk side. Whether you believe you are or not, you are on the risk side. And so you just need to understand that you're now in what I call the all risk zone. You know what I mean? And those 10 companies we lost on the ballpark, as hazardous as that was, it was very tough to deal with, but they were in the all-risk zone. And maybe they didn't realize it, but they were. And so we have to obviously learn and understand how to mitigate the risk if we're going to be on the job. So we can't go into it blindly saying, I didn't know, it was, well, I won't get into that, but there was a document that I was looking at yesterday. I think it's the revised safety manual. It was 208 pages long with all of the appendixes. And I didn't get a chance to read it because I got it in the afternoon, but just perusing it, I thought to myself, would I, Marvin Johnson, if I had a construction company, again, would I want to be on this job? I asked myself, after just perusing it and all of the appendixes, and I talked to Rob McNeil this morning. I said, Rob, is the OSIP insurance manual, that's not part of that. He said, no, that's separate. So I've got that. I've got both of them. and just ask it, not even talking about scope. And I had to answer him. I said I don't know, because I'm mature enough now in the industry to know that difference between the hazard and the risk. And sometimes I would prefer to leave the hazard as a hazard. So why do projects and people on projects experience failure? I think that's if we had an answer to that, we can bottle that up and sell that anywhere in the industry. Hazardous implications to working on a large project. If you're a small company, right, there's some things, and this is, by far not, the end all. This is Marvin's view of the world when I think about hazardous implications on working on a large project. Participate in a project without requisite experience. I picked that as number one. Without the requisite experience. Why are you here? What do you hope to gain? And how are you putting yourself, your employees, your family at risk just by deciding to be on the job? Getting in over your head, lack of financial resources, operating on a cash basis. Many small businesses, they operate on a cash basis. They don't have lines of credit, they don't have loans that they work from, and being on a large project, operating on a cash basis, those two, it's oil and water. They don't mix very well. Not to say that there couldn't be a program in place to help with that, but short of having something in place to help deal with cash flow, and everybody in here knows what I mean when I talk about that, because payroll comes around for some of us every week and some of us every 2 weeks, and it feels like every 4 weeks. Lack of project team with demonstrated experience, talked about that. Insufficient trade, vendor, supplier, credit relationships. Was talking with someone just this morning that they were asked to be part of a project. They are a contractor, self-perform work. They were asked to buy all the materials. Not set it, just buy it. And the question was, Marvin, will that fly? No, that doesn't fly. If you self-perform, don't agree to just buy the materials. Right, so just, educational thing. Lack of contract knowledge. One of the things I remember on the ballpark, we had a contractor. It was a plumbing contractor who was a sub to DeLuca, and the sub, the second tier, never read his contract to understand what the flow down provisions or the mutual rights and responsibilities were that flowed from Hunt, who I worked for, down to the first tier, down to the second tier, and that's where they got hurt. Because they didn't know that they could ask for a copy of the first tier's contract to understand what those provisions were. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Unsophisticated internal controls, accounting, job costing, tracking, reporting, project management, insurance limits. All those things, you have to be aware of that. I mean, those sort of present a real but on the flip side, I don't want to just talk about the hazard. I think there's some real advantages if you can be part of a large project. I think it helps the industry, particularly with respect to small businesses. A high level of market growth, high performing team with demonstrated experience. It helps you there. It helps your corporate experience. It increases your firm marketability, and certainly team opportunities for future work. So it has its advantages. It's a real almost needle in a haystack type of thing, making sure the stars line up so that the opportunity that you have fits your requisite experience. Job creation. We generally get to hire people. If you're on a large project, and that's always a good thing. Job creation, whether it be trades, whether it be on the AE side, CM, GC, it's good we get an opportunity to create jobs as a result many times of being on a job. If you're specialty trade, all the tiers, it's just generally an advantage, general and administrative. So that's some of the advantages of being on it. It does increase your financial strength if you hopefully have some good internal controls in terms of how you spend the revenue, and you're not doubling your G&A expenses, and so that then takes away from the net revenue, for growth and profits and wealth building opportunities. We talked about that last year. Implementation and integration of new systems. You know, we all get to learn more about new delivery methods. I had never done a bridging method before, but didn't understand some of the advantages of it from the owner side, but got to be exposed to that. Speed to market strategies, strategies for, you know, prefabbing of building components, mechanical, as well as carpentry, you know, whether it be walls and other prefab units that help with efficiency and time and cost. Web-based project management systems, of course, OSIP and CSIP. You know, many of you may never be part of a CSIP, but it's just a contractor-controlled insurance program. There aren't a lot of contractors here in St. Louis that employ that on a regular basis. There are a couple. And of course, OSIP, exposure to the new technology, communication, advancement, and strategies. That communication, you know, I could wipe everything out of this presentation and leave that one word, communication. And my experience has taught me that is the one key element that I have seen that have caused not just project failure, but failure inside of a business with respect to that. And we've got some issues of communication that we'll talk about. Projects experience failure as a result of scope creep. And when I say projects, I'm generally talking from a small business standpoint, you know, what elements are there that could potentially hurt you. Scope creep, poor planning, whether it be poor planning on your part or poor planning on your first tier or the prime. Sometimes we get caught in between a rock and a hard place where we are a sub on it, whether it be first or second tier, and there are issues where there's been scope missing or left out or omitted, and it comes down to us and we don't know how to defend it. A lack of leadership, clear management, direction, and involvement, incomplete specifications. You should have put drawings on there as well, but you know, sometimes the documents aren't complete. And we need to know that and be able to recognize that, so that if there are RFIs, if there's requests for clarifications, we need to be able to write those things. And we're going to talk about writing here really, really quick. Mismanagement of expectations and corrective action. The reason mismanagement of expectations occurs because there was never an understanding. You know, a lot of times we get involved in projects many times, not all the time. But many times we get involved in projects just because of our ethnicity or being a woman. Not all the time. And hopefully we're always growing out of it. I call that the least desirable dollar. The most desirable dollar to me is a dollar that I get, that I go to the end user and they hire me because of experience, reputation, you know, demonstrated results. But a dollar is a dollar. But there is a most and a least desirable dollar, at least in my book. That's the way I define it. Mismanagement, all are functions of poor communication. So there we are, back to the issue of communications, poor communication. Everything we seem to talk about drives back to the issue of communication. Here's some things as I read something from the PMI. There was a study that really dealt with the issues of so just over half projects when communications are not sufficiently clear and detailed, they experience certain levels of failure. You know, for companies engaged in large-scale infrastructure projects, that can mean the difference between profitability and crippling loss. So you know what that would mean for some of us in terms of not communicating effectively and managing our risk. Again, that's something that you can read at your leisure. Mitigating the risk of project failures. There are some things that we can do to help ourselves, and many of us are doing those things now. But KPMG did a study, and it said although the engineering and construction industry has made great strides in managing risk, 77% of respondents. These were KPMG as a global research company, and within our industry, they put out an annual report. In 2013, there were just a number of things in there. I just sort of picked out a few things as I was looking at risk and communication. 70% of respondents report underperforming projects due primarily to delays, poor estimating, and what else? A failed communication process. Communication is the key to a successful project experience, regardless of what your role is. It doesn't matter if you're CM